No. Fuck them. They did it to themselves. It's a find out stage now. And let them pull themselves by their bootstraps. And the only thing that we could do is thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. You know?
Good news coming out of Nebraska. I mean, if you could call it good news. They have identified a way to cut their budget shortfall pretty much in half. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to the story that's happening in Nebraska, there's a lot of panic that the state is going to go bankrupt. And there's some saying it will happen in just the matter of a couple of months because they have a $400 million budget shortfall. There's a lot of different reasons for it. Let me tell you what they are. But a lot of it very much is self-inflicted wounds. And now they're kind of dancing around going, oh my God, what did we do? Nebraska is experiencing right now at a state level what we're all about to face at a federal level. So I think it's important to pay attention there because this is what happens when you give giveaways and subsidies and tax breaks to the wealthy, and you do all of these things that in the moment feel right because they get you votes and they get you popularity and they get you all this shit. And then when you have to pay the bills, you realized you fucked yourself. And that's exactly what Nebraska has done. I think the number one reason that Nebraskans should be concerned is that they've lost their immigrant labor. Nebraska was one of those states that had there's a lot of farming, a lot of agriculture type businesses, and they use a lot of immigrant labor. Whether they're documented or not does not matter. There were people who were not native Nebraskans who had moved there and were working there. Nebraskans, like a bunch of other states, voted for Trump, which told their immigrant population, we're not welcome here. Instead of waiting for the jackboot stormtroopers from ICE to come knock on their doors, the immigrants pieced out. We're going to go someplace where people will use our labor and will like us and will treat us with a little bit of dignity. So they probably hustled their asses to Colorado or California or someplace else where they could get work and they could be safer. So rumor has it that this was 60% of their labor force. And when you lose that much of your labor force, you've got no one to pick your wheat, you got no one to slaughter your cows, you're in big fucking trouble. So that's the start of it. They're not making as much revenue. They're not supplying as much food into the food chain, which, by the way, screws all of us. Our food supply is going to be fucked if this happens. So let's just say that. But they also did a lot of other things, right? They put in corporate tax breaks and they did all this other stuff. Now suddenly they don't have a pot to piss in. Their budget committee has gone back to work and they're trying to find places where they can find this money. And they've identified 165 million more in revenue that they can bring in. 65 million of it is from, well, let's just go ahead and raise the taxes on the corporations. Amazing how quickly the money pours in if you make everybody pay their fair share. But I digress. Anyway, they've also done some other things, cut some extra funding. They cut a major portion of funding to the University of Nebraska Medical Center, which is quite frightening for the people who work there and a lot of the research they're doing. Probably have to make a total separate video about that because university hospitals all across the nation are getting crushed right now because they're losing a lot of their funding. But one thing they've also decided to do was to take the cash out of their slush fund. Every state kind of has this emergency fund. And I get that they think, okay, this is an emergency. We got to use the slush fund. So they're putting their slush fund toward their budget deficit. I understand that. But what's happening is, in case you don't know, Nebraska is one of those, let's use the word socialist states, meaning they are one of those red states that gets more from the federal government than they put in. Okay, they get a ton of subsidies for their farmers. They get a ton of stuff. And sadly, there's a lot of people in Nebraska who are poor or even poverty level citizens. And they need government funding. They need things like Medicaid and SNAP benefits and those types of things. Well, when you've got the Doge dickheads going, nope, cut it all off. We don't give a fuck who starves. We don't care about poor people. We don't care about children. Cut it all off. What's happening is the federal government will start giving less to Nebraska. And Nebraska is going to be expected to pull herself up by her bootstraps. Not if they've raided their slush fund. If they don't have any money left in their slush fund, they can't help their hungry and poor citizens. So again, it's all self-inflicted wounds because this is how they voted, and they supported an administration that was going to slash. They supported an administration that said no more brown people. They did this to themselves, and it's very hard to feel sorry for them, right? There's a lot of people on here that are like, bye-bye. But it's a major hit to our food supply. I took some notes. Let me just tell you. They are the third largest producer of corn. They're a big producer of soybeans. They are top 15 producer of wheat. And I don't know if you knew this, but Nebraska, number one in popcorn. They're the number one producer of popcorn. We stand a risk to lose our popcorn, people. But that's not even what I want to talk about. They are one of the top producers of beef. If you've not, there are some exceptional cattle ranchers in Nebraska, and they provide a huge portion of America's high quality beef, but also pork, poultry, and wait for it, eggs. You think they're expensive now? You shut down the state of Nebraska, that's a big hit to the egg industry. Now, the what would be the cherry on the top of the fuck around and find out Sunday is that 43 days before the last election, Nebraska's state house made a Hail Mary to try to change their electoral college process. If you're not familiar, Nebraska has 5 electoral votes, but it's not a winner take all. 3 of the electoral college votes go to, however, those 3 congressional districts. So if 2 of those districts go blue, that's two electoral college to the Democrats and 1 to the Republicans. And then the other 2 are given to the person who the party that wins the overall state. So if the Republicans win the total state, they would get that. So last year, the way it stood to be was that Donald Trump would probably get 4 electoral votes. Kamala Harris would get 1. 4 out of 5 isn't quite enough when you're a Trump-loving, conservative, middle America white man who happens to be in the Nebraska State House. They didn't even want the black lady to get even 1 vote. Oh, no. They tried to change 43 days before the election. They tried to change their electoral college process to a winner take all. And luckily it didn't pass. There was somebody in the state house that said, this is dumb, we're not doing it. So it was dead in the water. But my point being is that this state is led and probably is populated by people who were die-hard, rabid Trump supporters. People who will throw a Hail Mary at the last fucking minute because they wanted him to have an even bigger win. And now they're crying on TikTok because they might go bankrupt. If you're a blue dot in Nebraska, hang in there, maybe pack your bags, maybe go to Colorado. I'm so sorry this is happening to you, and I'm so sad it's gonna fuck our food supply for a very long time. But you fuck around and you find out.
FAFO season, Nebraska MAGA ranchers break down in tears after voting for anti-immigrant policies, bankruptcy looms. Welcome back to Sparkle's show. First off, shout out to all of you for supporting this channel. We see the comments, the love, the engagement, and y'all keep this space alive and thriving. Now, let's get into today's FAFO update. And it's a big one. But before we dive in, credit where credit is due. Huge thanks to the original creators and stitches who have been breaking this down in real time. Make sure to check them out because this is a story you need to hear.
I'm gonna need Nebraska to check in. How y'all doing? I checked the news, and what I am reading is that the Nebraska ranchers are having a difficult time at the moment. The mass deportation is putting you guys significantly at risk of losing your family businesses. And according to the statistical data, it shows that you overwhelmingly voted to support Trump in your state. I just want to know how y'all doing. I mean, if y'all are really interested in seeing the impacts of fuck around and find out, go do some digging in Nebraska TikTok. It's eye-opening that we assume that MAGA didn't understand their impact based on their vote. this state is on the brink of bankruptcy. And these folks would still vote for him, knowing what they know now. What kind of Jim Jones shit is this?
Get my fat bitch on in Nebraska. Oh my, getting a lot of attention. The Nebraska talk, and social media, and world news, even our governor, has been screaming and crying, clutching your pearls, saying, oh, we're gonna go bankrupt in 2 quarters. Well, duh! What did you think was going to happen? Nebraska is mostly red. The last time we voted for a Democratic president was Lyndon Johnson. It's been that long. We talked about Project 2025 to you. We talked about voting against your own interests. And the we I'm talking about is in your own state, the blue dot people. Yeah, the ones that irritated you so much. The libs you wanted to own during the election. The ones that you said, oh no, Project 2025, that's just a myth. He doesn't endorse that at all. And now you're seeing it implemented step by step by step by step. Nebraska doesn't have a large population. We're a little over 2 million. And 60 to 65% of the workforce in the ranching and meatpacking industry is undocumented. He promised he was going to deport them. He promised again and again and again and again, and now it's happening. Who did you think was going to do the jobs? Leprechauns? And I'm talking to you as a native Nebraskan. I was born and raised here. I was educated here. Thank God I left this state at the age of 18 and broke out of that 1950s Republican bubble that so many of you desperately cling to. For all the rest of you Trumpanzees and MAGAs that think this doesn't affect you, have you seen the price of beef lately in the grocery store? It's going to make the price of eggs look cheap. And pork is probably next. You made this mess. You fix it. You fucked around. And now everyone's going to find out.
So I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Nebraska, like people being like, oh man, have you heard what's going on in Nebraska right now? We're going to run out of money. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have that. We don't care. We don't fucking care. Because Nebraska let their racism get in the way of their votes. And that's why they voted for Trump. Oh, you guys are going to deport all the Mexicans? I vote for Trump. And they forgot who the fuck was supposed to work on their shit. You think a white man's going to come plot your farm and stuff? Absolutely not. You think a black man? Absolutely not. We ain't stepping near a motherfucking field. So who else did you think was going to do it? You see what racism got you? Because why else did you vote for Trump? Did you honestly think he was going to help y'all? You're not rich enough for him. Trump is only out here to help the rich, not y'all. May you guys in Nebraska have the day you deserve.
Oh, y'all be seeing the people on TikTok recently. It's like, what about the people in Nebraska? Where are y'all? Like, do y'all not care about what's happening to us and our families and our 300-year-old farms? I mean, we see it or whatever, you know, but we seeing this too. We seeing this too. We seeing this too. Y'all remember when that white dude was getting arrested in, I think it was Atlanta airport, and he was like, "You're treating me like a black person." Y'all remember that? I think that is what is happening in these United States of America. I think that everybody is starting to find out that racism is expensive. You should vote your pay grade, and that everybody is niggas.
Well, in today's episode of F Around and Find Out MAGA edition, cattle ranchers in the state of Nebraska who voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump fear the impact on their businesses when Donald Trump implements his mass deportation program that he campaigned on for almost 2 years, that they voted for. And now they're realizing that if he actually implements it, they'll go bankrupt. He told you for almost 2 years that he was going to deport 20 million Hispanic, Latino, undocumented immigrants living and working in the United States. You voted for that. And as cattle ranchers in the state of Nebraska, your business and your profitability depends and relies on undocumented immigrant workers who are now going to be deported by the guy that you voted for who said he was going to do that. How dumb are you people?
So for all the farmers that live in Nebraska, you voted for Trump knowing that 70% of your workforce on your farms are migrants. Now, apparently Nebraska is 6 months away from bankruptcy. Still voted for the mass deportation of 70% of your workforce on your farms, and now are complaining that your farms and your livelihood will not survive it.
Hey, Nebraska, I hear that you get to be Trump's next bankruptcy. Good for you. Way to go. See, your racism and your transphobia and your hatred of women was just bigger than your sense of self-preservation. Yes, it was. And now you're going to lose your granddaddy's farm. See, just like during the pandemic, when there were all of these subsidies and bailouts for farmers, but they went to the mega corporate farms instead of folks like you, you didn't learn your lesson. So now all those tax breaks and handouts and subsidies are going to go to the folks that are waiting in the wings to swoop up your little piece of legacy, so they can turn it into just another plot of land on a spreadsheet. So as you're packing up your Mima's mementos, emptying out that room where you raised your babies, loading up that dinner table where hundreds of family gatherings made magic, it's going to be hard. But just know that we're so happy for you that you got what you voted for. We absolutely love this for you. Peace out.
Nebraska girl here. I did not vote for Trump. There was no way I was going to. I voted blue. I passed out signs for the blue dot. I donated and I did what I had to do. And now the farmers are going bankrupt. Nebraska's going bankrupt. Way to go. You fucked around and you found out.
So at this point, does Nebraska even care about Nebraska? I don't really know because I don't follow the politics like that, but it seems like they're in their FAFO phase, and it is what it is. We're finding out. Y'all were told, but you still did it anyway, so, yeah, here we are.
The Breakdown, MAGA ranchers and their big mistake. So here's the situation. Nebraska's MAGA ranchers voted for hardline anti-immigrant policies, convinced that it was the right move to protect American jobs. And now, they're in full meltdown mode. They got exactly what they voted for. Immigrant workers gone, and suddenly, their farms are collapsing, their cattle are suffering, and their bank accounts are in free fall. Because, let's be real, who did they think was doing all that hard labor? It wasn't their neighbors, it wasn't their kids, and it definitely wasn't the politicians who told them to vote this way. The very people they wanted out were keeping their businesses alive, and now that they're gone, so is their economic stability. Here's the cold, hard truth. Nebraska is on the brink of a financial disaster because these policies didn't just remove workers. They removed an entire workforce that kept farms running and profitable. And without that labor, crops are rotting, cattle are underfed, farm production has plummeted, and now a wave of bankruptcies is coming because, surprise, surprise, banks still want their money, and without production, these ranchers can't pay up. Some financial experts are even warning that Nebraska's economy could take a massive hit if things continue this way. But let's be honest, who didn't see this coming? Oh, and y'all know social media is not holding back. Here are some top reactions from Twitter, TikTok, and beyond. They voted to take their country back, and now they're about to lose their farms, too. Wild. I would feel bad, but we literally warned them. Imagine kicking out the workers who feed your cows and then crying because your cows ain't eating. Somebody get them a mirror because this is self-inflicted. And while some folks are saying don't laugh, this is serious, the reality is actions have consequences. People warned them. They ignored the warnings. And now they're paying the price. The real question now is, will they actually learn? Because this ain't the first time FAFO has taught a hard lesson, and at this rate, it won't be the last. But will they change their votes next election? Or will they double down and make it worse? That's the million-dollar question. What do you think? Is this karma, a wake-up call, or just another "we told you so" moment? Let's talk in the comments because we need to discuss this. And before we go, one more huge shout out to the original creators and stitches who covered this as it happened. We appreciate y'all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sparkle's show for more dramatic, satirical, and eye-opening commentary on today's wildest events. Stay aware, stay engaged, and as always, stay sparkling.